The blood on Griska's hands had long since dried to a dark rust, but she could still feel the weight of every blade she had ever swung. She stood at the edge of the human settlement, her green skin catching the last rays of the setting sun, and wondered if this was finally the place where her luck would run out. Behind her lay 100 battlefields, 1,000 corpses, and the smoldering ruins of the only life she had ever known. The Ironjaw clan had been her family, her purpose, her entire world until 3 days ago, when she had refused to slaughter a group of human children hiding in a barn. Her chieftain had called her weak. Her brothers had called her traitor. They had given her until dawn to leave their territory or die. So she left. Now she stood outside a small farming village in the borderlands, a place so unremarkable she did not even know its name. Her armor was gone, traded to a traveling merchant for bread and water. All she had left was a hunting knife, the clothes on her back, and a body covered in scars that told stories she wished she could forget. She was tired, not the tired that sleep could fix, but the kind that settled into bones and made every breath feel like lifting stones. The village was quiet as twilight deepened. Smoke rose from chimneys. She could hear distant laughter, the sound of a dog barking, the creak of a wagon wheel, normal sounds, peaceful sounds, sounds that had nothing to do with war. Griska knew she should move on. Humans did not welcome orcs, especially not orc warriors who looked like they had crawled out of a nightmare, but her legs would not carry her any further. She had been walking for 3 days with little food and less water. Her vision swam. Her knees buckled. She collapsed against a wooden fence post at the edge of someone's property, telling herself she would rest for just a moment, just long enough to catch her breath. Then she would move on before anyone saw her. The world tilted sideways. Darkness crept in at the edges of her vision. The last thing she heard before consciousness left her was the sound of footsteps approaching and a man's voice, low and concerned, saying words she could not quite make out. When Griska woke, she expected chains, or a mob, or the business end of a pitchfork. Instead, she found herself lying on something soft, a bed, an actual bed with clean sheets that smelled like lavender and sunshine. The room around her was small but tidy, with wooden walls, a single window showing the gray light of early morning, and a simple table with a ceramic pitcher and basin. She sat up too quickly and her head spun. Pain lanced through her side and she looked down to find her shirt had been changed. Someone had dressed her in a clean linen tunic that was far too large for her frame. Her wounds had been cleaned and bandaged with practiced care. Panic surged through her. Where was her knife? Who had undressed her? Where was she? The door opened and Griska's hand shot out, grabbing the ceramic pitcher as a weapon, ready to throw it or swing it or do whatever necessary to fight her way out. The man who entered stopped immediately, hands raised in a gesture of peace. He was human, perhaps in his late 20s, with dark hair that fell across his forehead and eyes the color of warm earth. He was tall and lean, built like someone who worked with his hands but had never gone hungry. He wore simple farmer's clothes and had the kind of face that looked like it smiled often, though he was not smiling now. "Easy," he said quietly. "You are safe. I am not going to hurt you." Griska kept the pitcher raised. "Where am I? My home. My name is Adrian Hartley. I found you collapsed by my fence last night. You were burning with fever and covered in old wounds. I brought you inside." "Why?" The question came out harsh, suspicious. Adrian looked genuinely puzzled by it. "Because you needed help." Griska stared at him, searching for the lie, the trap, the hidden cruelty. Humans did not help orcs. They hunted them, drove them away, called them monsters and worse. "Where are my things?" she demanded. "Your knife is on the table beside the bed. Your old clothes I washed and hung to dry." He gestured to the window where she could see her threadbare shirt and trousers hanging on a line outside. I did not touch anything else. I had my neighbor, Mistress Clara, help change your clothes and tend your wounds. I thought you might be more comfortable with that. Griska looked at the small table. Her knife was indeed there within easy reach. He had not taken it, had not bound her, had in fact gone out of his way to preserve her dignity. She slowly lowered the pitcher, though she did not set it down completely. Adrian took that as permission to step further into the room. He carried a tray with a bowl of something that smelled rich and savory. You should eat. You were half-starved when I found you. I have no coin to pay you. I did not ask for coin. Then what do you want? He set the tray down on the table and met her eyes steadily. I want you to eat. Get your strength back. Then, if you wish to leave, you can leave. And if you need a place to stay for a while, you can stay. No strings attached. Griska's tusks clicked together in agitation, a nervous habit she had never managed to break. This made no sense. People did not act like this, especially not toward orcs. Why would you help me? You do not know me. I could be anyone, anything. Adrian shrugged, and for the first time a small smile touched his lips. My mother used to say that kindness given freely is never wasted, and you looked like you needed it. He moved toward the door, clearly giving her space. The stew is venison and vegetables. There is bread and butter on the tray as well. Take your time. I will be outside if you need anything. He left, closing the door gently behind him. Griska sat in the quiet room, staring at the tray of food, trying to understand what was happening. Her instincts screamed that this was a trap, that she should grab her knife and run as fast and far as her weakened legs would carry her. But the stew smelled incredible, and she was so hungry. She picked up the spoon with a trembling hand and took a bite. The rich, warm flavors flooded her mouth, and she nearly wept. When had she last eaten something hot? Something made with care. She ate slowly, savoring every mouthful, and tried not to think about the strange human man who had shown her mercy for no reason at all. Over the next 3 days, Griska learned that Adrian Hartley was either the kindest fool alive or some sort of saint. He brought her meals 3 times a day without fail. He asked for nothing in return. He did not demand she explain herself or where she came from. He simply treated her like a person who deserved basic decency. It was deeply unsettling. On the 4th day, Griska felt strong enough to stand and walk without the world spinning. She dressed in her own clothes, strapped her knife to her belt, and ventured out of the small room that had become her sanctuary. Adrian's home was modest. A single-story cottage with a kitchen, a main room with a hearth, and the small bedroom where she had been staying. Through the windows, she could see fields of wheat and barley stretching toward distant woods. A chicken coop stood to one side. A small vegetable garden grew near the house. She found Adrian outside, working on repairing a section of fence. He looked up when he heard her approach and smiled. Good to see you on your feet. How are you feeling? Better. She shifted her weight, uncomfortable with the casual friendliness in his tone. I should go. I have imposed on your hospitality long enough. Adrian set down his hammer and wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. Where will you go? Griska had no answer to that. She had no clan, no home, no destination. Just the vague idea that she needed to keep moving before someone decided an orc did not belong. I will figure it out, she said, defensive. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. If that is what you want, I will not stop you, but if you would like, you could stay, at least for a while. Why would you want that? Because I could use the help, honestly. He gestured toward the fields and the cottage. I am one person trying to run this whole farm. During harvest season, I usually hire day workers from the village, but they are not always reliable. You are clearly strong. If you wanted to work in exchange for room and board, I would consider that a fair trade." Griska narrowed her eyes. "You want me to work for you?" "I want to offer you a choice. You can leave and I will wish you well, or you can stay and help me around the farm. Honest work for honest pay. I cannot offer much, but you would have a roof over your head and food in your belly." It was too good to be true. No one made offers like this. Especially not to orcs. People in the village will not like having an orc so close. Adrian's expression hardened slightly. "This is my land. I choose who works it." He paused, then added more gently, "But I will not lie to you. Some folks will have opinions. You might face some hostility. I cannot protect you from that." At least he was being honest. Griska could respect that. She looked around at the farm, at the neat rows of crops and the sturdy cottage and the wide, open sky above. It had been so long since she had stayed anywhere long enough to call it home. The warrior part of her said this was foolish, that she should keep moving, stay sharp, trust no one. But the exhausted, battered part of her that had been running for days wanted nothing more than to stop. Just for a little while. 1 month, she heard herself say. "I will stay for 1 month. Help you with whatever you need. Then I will move on." Adrian's smile was like sunrise. 1 month. That is fair. He extended his hand toward her. Griska looked at it, at this strange human gesture of agreement, and slowly reached out to clasp his forearm in the way warriors sealed bargains. Adrian adjusted without comment, gripping her forearm firmly in return. "Welcome to Hartley Farm, Griska," she startled. "I never told you my name." "You muttered it in your fever a few times." His grin turned sheepish. "Sorry, should have mentioned that sooner." Despite herself, Griska felt the corner of her mouth twitch. Not quite a smile, but close. Maybe 1 month would not be so terrible. The work was harder than Griska expected and easier than war. Adrian set her to mending fences, hauling water, weeding the vegetable garden, and a dozen other tasks that made her back ache and her hands blister. But there was something almost meditative about it. The simple rhythm of physical labor, without the threat of death. The satisfaction of seeing tangible results. No one died when she planted seeds. No blood spilled when she repaired a fence post. It was strange, but not unpleasant. Adrian worked alongside her most days, showing her how to do tasks she had never encountered. How to check if the wheat was ready for harvest. How to tell when the chickens needed more feed. How to coax stubborn vegetables from reluctant soil. He was patient when she made mistakes, quick to offer praise when she did well. And he talked constantly, filling the silence with stories about the farm, the village, his childhood. Griska learned that Adrian had inherited the farm from his father 2 years ago, that his mother had died when he was young, that he had a younger sister who had married and moved to a town 2 days' ride away, that he loved this land with a fierce devotion that reminded Griska of the way warriors loved their clans. She said little about herself. Adrian never pushed. On the 8th day, Griska accompanied Adrian into the village to sell eggs and vegetables at the market. She told herself it was to help carry the goods. In truth, she was curious to see how humans would react to her. The answer was about what she expected. People stared. Mothers pulled their children closer. Men's hands drifted toward weapons they were not quite bold enough to draw. Whispers followed in their wake. "Is that an orc? What is Hartley thinking? Someone should do something." Adrian ignored all of it with impressive composure. He set up his stall, greeted customers with friendly warmth, and made his sales as if nothing was wrong. When one man refused to buy from him because, "I will not give coin to anyone who harbors monsters," Adrian simply shrugged and said, "That is your choice, Mr. Hendricks. Good day to you." Griska stood to the side, trying to make herself small, feeling the weight of every hostile gaze like knives on her skin. This was why she had been alone for so long. This was why orcs and humans did not mix. Then a small voice piped up. "Are you really an orc?" Griska looked down to find a little girl, perhaps 6 years old, staring up at her with enormous blue eyes full of curiosity rather than fear. "Yes," Griska said carefully. "Are you going to eat me?" "Martha." A woman rushed over, horrified, and tried to pull the child away. "No," Griska said firmly, looking the mother in the eye. "I am not going to eat anyone. I do not eat people." The little girl looked almost disappointed. "Oh, the stories say orcs eat people. The stories are wrong about a lot of things." Martha considered this with the seriousness only children could muster. Then she smiled, bright and uncomplicated. "You are very tall, and your teeth are interesting." "Martha, apologize right now for being rude," her mother hissed, but Griska found herself almost smiling. "It is fine. She is just curious." She crouched down to be closer to the child's eye level. "Yes, I am tall, and these are called tusks, not teeth. Can I touch one?" "Absolutely not." The mother had gone pale. "We are leaving right now." She dragged the protesting Martha away, but the little girl waved over her shoulder. "Goodbye, Miss Orc. You seem nice." Griska stood slowly, aware that half the market was staring at her, but a few faces looked less hostile than before, more curious. As if they were reconsidering their assumptions, Adrian appeared at her elbow, carrying an empty basket. "You are good with children." "I did not eat her. That is a low bar," he laughed, warm and genuine. "Most people would have gotten angry at the question. You treated her with kindness." "That matters." Griska did not know what to say to that, so she said nothing. They walked back to the farm in comfortable silence as the sun began its descent toward the horizon. The first week became 2. Then 3. Griska fell into the rhythm of farm life with surprising ease. She woke before dawn to collect eggs and feed the chickens. She worked the fields until her muscles burned. She helped Adrian repair the barn roof, haul stones for a new well, and chase down an escaped goat who had ideas about freedom. In the evenings, they ate dinner together. Simple meals of bread and cheese and whatever vegetables were ready from the garden. Adrian would talk about his plans for the farm. Griska would listen and occasionally offer thoughts from her different perspective. "You could plant beans along that south fence," she said one night. "They would grow up the posts and give you 2 crops from the same space." Adrian looked at her with surprise. "That is brilliant. How did you know that?" Griska shrugged. "The Ironjaw clan had to grow food when game was scarce. We learned to be efficient." It was the first time she had mentioned her clan directly. Adrian did not make a big deal of it, just nodded thoughtfully. "I would love to hear more about orc farming techniques sometime, if you are willing to share." Something warm and unfamiliar stirred in Griska's chest. He was not demanding, not prying, just expressing genuine interest. "Maybe," she said quietly. As the days passed, Griska began to notice small things about Adrian. The way he hummed while he worked. The crooked smile he got when he was particularly pleased about something. The gentleness in his hands when he tended injured animals or coaxed seedlings from the earth. He was kind. Truly, deeply kind in a way that seemed woven into the very fabric of who he was. It was dangerous. Griska could survive cruelty. She had spent her whole life navigating violence and hatred. But kindness, genuine, selfless kindness, she had no defense against that. She tried to maintain her walls, to remember that this was temporary, that she would leave when the month was up. But Adrian made it so hard. Like the time she mentioned offhandedly that she missed the taste of blackberries, and 2 days later he took her to a patch he knew in the woods. They spent the afternoon picking berries, eating as many as they collected, laughing when Griska got juice all over her face. Or the time she admitted She had never learned to raid, and Adrian immediately offered to teach her, spending patient evenings showing her letters and sounds without a trace of judgment. Or the quiet morning when Griska mentioned that orc warriors traditionally braided their hair before battle and Adrian asked if she would show him how, then sat still while she wove intricate patterns into his hair with steady fingers that trembled only slightly at the intimacy of the act. It was too much. It was everything she had never known she wanted, and it terrified her. The month mark came and went without comment from either of them. Griska told herself she would leave any day now. She just needed to finish helping with the harvest. Just needed to make sure the barn roof would hold through winter. Just needed one more day. Summer began to fade toward autumn. The air turned crisp in the mornings. Leaves started to show hints of gold and red. Griska had been at Hartley Farm for 6 weeks when the trouble started. She was working alone in the north field, clearing stones from soil that Adrian wanted to use for winter wheat, when 3 men appeared at the edge of the property. She recognized them from the village. The one called Hendricks, who had refused to buy from Adrian, and 2 others whose names she did not know. They were armed. Clubs and knives, nothing fancy but weapons all the same. Griska straightened slowly, assessing the threat. 3 against 1. She was unarmed except for her work knife. They had the advantage of surprise and position, but Griska had survived 100 battles. 3 farm men with clubs did not scare her. "You need to leave," Hendricks called out. His voice was hard but uncertain, like a man trying to convince himself of his own righteousness. "We do not want your kind here. This is human land." Griska said nothing, just watched them with the predatory stillness she had learned in war. "Did you hear me, monster? Get out. Go back to whatever hole you crawled from. I work this land. I have done nothing to you. You exist. That is enough." Hendricks took a step forward, emboldened by his companions. "We know what orcs are, killers, savages. You are probably just waiting for a chance to murder Hartley in his sleep and take everything." Griska felt cold fury settle over her. She had heard these words before. Had them screamed at her. Had them used to justify hunting her people like animals. "I am going to give you one chance," she said quietly. "Turn around, walk away, forget you came here." "Or what?" One of the other men laughed. "You will kill us. That would just prove we are right." They did not understand. They thought she was threatening them, but Griska was offering mercy. Hendricks raised his club. "Last chance, orc. Leave now or we will make you leave." The violence that followed was brief and brutal. Hendricks swung his club. Griska ducked under it, grabbed his arm, and used his own momentum to send him crashing to the ground. The second man lunged at her. She sidestepped, drove her elbow into his ribs, and swept his legs out from under him. The third man actually managed to land a blow, his club catching her shoulder with a crack that would leave a magnificent bruise. Griska barely felt it. She closed the distance between them in 2 strides, grabbed the front of his shirt, and lifted him off his feet despite him being twice her size. "I was a warrior before you were born," she snarled, inches from his terrified face. "I have killed men who would eat you for breakfast and not bother to spit out the bones. I have survived things that would break your mind. Do not mistake my restraint for weakness." She dropped him. He scrambled backward like a crab, eyes wide with terror. Griska turned to face the other 2 who were climbing to their feet, and something in her expression made them freeze. "I do not want to hurt you," she said, "but I will protect myself in this farm. You have a choice. Make the right one." They ran. All 3 of them, stumbling over each other in their haste to get away. Griska stood alone in the field, breathing hard, adrenaline singing through her veins. The warrior part of her that had been dormant for weeks roared back to life, ready for more, disappointed the fight had ended so quickly. Then she heard footsteps behind her and spun, fists raised. Adrian stood at the edge of the field, eyes wide. He had seen everything. Griska's heart sank. This was it. This was the moment he would realize what she really was. A weapon. A killer. A monster, just like they said. "Are you hurt?" Adrian asked, breaking the silence. Of all the things Griska expected him to say, that was not one of them. "What?" "I saw him hit you with the club." "Are you hurt?" Adrian crossed the distance between them quickly, his eyes scanning her with concern. "I am fine. It is just a bruise." "Let me see." Before Griska could protest, Adrian gently tugged aside the collar of her shirt to examine her shoulder. His touch was careful, professional, but she felt it like lightning on her skin. "That is going to swell," he said quietly. "We should ice it. Come back to the house." "You saw what I did." Griska's voice came out rough. "I hurt those men. You defended yourself." Adrian met her eyes steadily. "They came onto my land with weapons and threatened you. You had every right to protect yourself. And you could have done far worse, but you chose not to. That says everything I need to know." "They called me a monster. They are wrong." The simple certainty in his voice cracked something in Griska's chest. She had been called monster so many times it had become background noise. But having someone defend her, believe in her, see her as something other than a weapon or a threat, it broke her in ways violence never could. To her absolute horror, Griska felt tears burning in her eyes. She tried to blink them away, to swallow down the emotion threatening to overwhelm her, but it was too late. A single tear tracked down her green cheek, then another. Adrian's expression softened. "Oh, Griska." "I am fine," she said roughly, swiping at her face. "I am a warrior. Warriors do not cry. Warriors are allowed to feel things." Adrian's voice was unbearably gentle. "You have been so strong for so long, it is okay to let it out." And that was it. That was the final crack in the dam she had built around her heart. Griska broke. Huge. Racking sobs tore from her chest. Tears streamed down her face. All the pain and loss and loneliness and fear she had been carrying for years came pouring out in an unstoppable flood. She had survived 100 battles without flinching, had faced death with cold courage, had endured torture and betrayal and exile with her head held high. But one act of kindness, one man seeing her as a person deserving of compassion, shattered every defense she had. Adrian did not speak, did not tell her to stop or to pull herself together. He simply stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her, pulling her into an embrace that felt like safety. Griska collapsed against him, this human man who had shown her more kindness in 6 weeks than she had known in a lifetime, and she wept. She cried for every friend she had lost, for the clan that had cast her out, for the children she had saved and the life she had left behind, for all the years of being alone and afraid and convinced that she deserved nothing better. Adrian held her through all of it. His hand rubbed slow circles on her back. He murmured soft reassurances. He did not flinch from her tears or her pain. When the storm finally passed, Griska pulled back, mortified. Her face was blotchy and wet. Her eyes were swollen. She looked terrible. "I am sorry," she managed. "I did not mean to do that. Do not apologize, ever." Adrian reached up and gently wiped a remaining tear from her cheek with his thumb. "You have nothing to be sorry for." The tenderness of the gesture made Griska's breath catch. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw her own complicated feelings reflected in his warm brown eyes. Oh no. Oh no, 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 she was falling for him. Had been falling for him probably since the first meal he brought her. Maybe since the moment he found her collapsed by his fence and chose kindness over fear. This was dangerous. Impossible. She was an orc. He was human. There were 1,000 reasons why this could never work. But in that moment, standing in his field with his arms around her and his eyes full of something that looked dangerously like affection. Griska could not think of a single one that mattered. "Adrian," she whispered. "Yes." She did not know what she wanted to say. "Thank you. I am scared. Please do not let me go. I think I might be falling in love with you." Instead, she said, "We should get back to work." Adrian's smile was soft and knowing. "We should ice your shoulder first. Work can wait." As they walked back to the farmhouse together, Griska realized that for the first time in her life, she was not alone. And that was more terrifying than any battle she had ever fought. The incident with Hendricks and his friends had consequences. Word spread through the village that the orc at Hartley Farm had attacked 3 men. The details varied wildly depending on who was telling the story. Some said Griska had beaten them nearly to death. Others claimed she had threatened to eat them. A few of the more creative accounts involved dark magic and blood rituals. The truth, that 3 armed men had come onto private property to threaten someone and gotten their asses handed to them for their trouble, was far less popular. Adrian made a point of going into the village 2 days later to set the record straight. He told anyone who would listen exactly what had happened. That Griska had been defending herself, that she had shown remarkable restraint, that the men had been the aggressors. Most people did not want to hear it. "You are making a mistake, Hartley," one of the village elders warned him. "Letting that creature live on your land, it will end badly." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Griska is not a creature. She is a person. She works hard. She has not hurt anyone who did not attack her first, and what I do on my own land is my business. The whole village is our business. If she goes feral, if she hurts someone, it will be on your head. She will not. You cannot know that. She is an orc. Violence is in their nature." Adrian leaned forward, and there was steel in his voice when he spoke. "I have lived alongside Griska for almost 2 months. In that time, I have seen her be nothing but hard-working, honest, and kind. She is more patient and gentle than half the men in this village. So no, I do not believe violence is in her nature any more than it is in yours, and I will thank you to stop spreading lies about someone you do not even know." He left before the elder could respond, his ears burning with anger. When he got back to the farm, he found Griska sitting on the porch steps, sharpening her work knife with methodical precision. She looked up as he approached. "How bad is it?" she asked quietly. Adrian sat down beside her with a heavy sigh. "Not great. People are talking, making up stories." "Maybe I should leave. It would be easier for you." "No." The word came out sharper than Adrian intended. He softened his tone. "I do not want you to leave, and I meant what I said before. This is my land. I choose who stays on it. You are risking your reputation, your business. Hendricks is probably telling everyone not to buy from you. Let him. I would rather have integrity than the approval of small-minded fools." Griska studied him for a long moment. "You are a strange man, Adrian Hartley. Strange good or strange bad." A hint of a smile touched her lips. "I have not decided yet." They sat together in comfortable silence as evening settled around them. The sky turned shades of orange and purple. Crickets began their nightly chorus. A cool breeze carried the scent of ripening wheat. "Can I ask you something?" Adrian said eventually. "You can ask." "I may not answer." "Fair enough." He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "What made you leave your clan? You do not have to tell me if you do not want to, but I have wondered." Griska was quiet for so long that Adrian thought she was not going to answer. Then she spoke, her voice low and distant. "We raided a human settlement, small place, barely a village. My chieftain wanted to make an example. Show that we were strong, not to be trifled with." She paused, her hand stilling on the knife. "The adults fought, that was expected, part of war. But when the fighting was done, my brothers wanted to kill the children too. said we could not leave any alive to grow up seeking revenge. Adrian's chest tightened, but he said nothing, letting her continue. There were 6 of them. The oldest was maybe 12. They were hiding in a barn, terrified, crying. My chieftain ordered me to do it, said it was my turn to prove my loyalty. Griska's voice went flat. I looked at those children and I could not do it. I had killed warriors in battle, killed men who were trying to kill me. But children who could not even hold a sword properly, I refused. What happened? My chieftain called me weak, a disgrace to the Ironjaw name. He said I had gone soft, that I was no better than the humans I was protecting. She laughed bitterly. Maybe he was right. I let those children live. I faced down my own clan brothers to do it. And then I was given a choice. Leave by dawn or die a traitor's death. You made the right choice, Adrian said firmly. Did I? I lost everything, my family, my home, my purpose. All I had ever been was a warrior. Now I am nothing. You are not nothing. Adrian turned to face her fully. You are someone who chose compassion over cruelty, someone who values life even when it costs you everything. That takes more strength than any battle. Griska met his eyes and something passed between them, heavy and meaningful. You really believe that? She said wonderingly. I do. She shook her head slowly. You see the best in people, even when they do not deserve it. I think you deserve more kindness than you have ever been given. The words hung in the air between them. Griska looked away first, her heart pounding in a way that had nothing to do with combat. This was dangerous territory. Every instinct told her to retreat, to protect herself before she got hurt. But she was so tired of running, so tired of being alone. I was supposed to leave after 1 month, she said quietly. I know. It has been almost 2, I know. I am still here. Adrian's smile was gentle. I know, I am glad. Griska took a shaky breath. I do not know how to do this, how to stay in one place. How to trust that it will not all fall apart. Neither do I, honestly. I have never had an orc warrior living on my farm before. We are both figuring this out as we go. Despite everything, Griska laughed. It was a small sound, rusty from disuse, but real. We are a strange pair. The best things usually are. They sat together on the porch steps as stars began to appear in the darkening sky, neither quite ready to put words to what was growing between them, but both knowing it was there. Autumn arrived in earnest, painting the world in shades of amber and scarlet. The harvest began, and Griska threw herself into the work with fierce determination. Adrian had been right about needing help. The work was endless. Cutting wheat, bundling sheaves, hauling everything to the barn for storage. From dawn until well after dark they worked, falling into bed exhausted only to wake and do it all again. The village men who usually helped with Adrian's harvest did not come this year. Word had spread that he was harboring an orc, and most people wanted nothing to do with him. A few brave souls came anyway. Old Mrs. Clara, who had helped tend Griska's wounds that first night, showed up one morning with her grandson in tow. I do not care what the gossips say, she announced firmly. You have always been good to me, Adrian Hartley, and I am not about to abandon you over small-minded prejudice. She looked at Griska and gave a brisk nod. Besides, anyone who beats up that pompous fool Hendrix cannot be all bad. Griska blinked in surprise. I did not beat him up. I just defended myself. Well, whatever you did, he has been considerably more humble since. I call that a public service. She handed Griska a bundle. I brought extra bread. You look like you could use a good meal. It was such a small thing, such a simple gesture. But it made Griska's throat tight. Other people followed Clara's example. A young couple named Andrew and Wendy came to help, then a farmer whose land bordered Adrian's, then a few more, not everyone, not even most people, but enough to show Griska that not all humans were like Hendrix. that some were capable of looking past fear and seeing the person underneath. They worked together, human and orc side by side, and if some of the villagers were uncertain at first, Griska won them over through sheer competence. She could lift twice what any of the men could work twice as long without tiring, and she did it all without complaint, even when exhaustion made her bones ache. "You are amazing," Andrew said one afternoon, watching Griska hoist a massive bundle of wheat like it weighed nothing. "No offense, but I have never seen anyone that strong." "Orc warriors train from childhood," Griska explained. "Strength is survival. Could you teach me?" His eyes were bright with eagerness. "Some of your fighting techniques. I have always wanted to learn proper combat." Griska hesitated. Her first instinct was to refuse. She was trying to leave that life behind, but Adrian appeared at her elbow, his smile encouraging. "That could be interesting. I would like to learn too if you are willing to teach." Looking at their hopeful faces, Griska found herself agreeing. So in the evenings after the harvest work was done, she began teaching them basic combat stances. How to balance, how to move efficiently, how to read an opponent's body language. It was strange, sharing these skills for teaching rather than killing. But it felt right in a way Griska had not expected. She showed Adrian how to disarm someone with a knife, showed Andrew how to use an opponent's strength against them, showed Clara's grandson how to fall without getting hurt. And in teaching, Griska found herself healing something she had not known was broken. She had always been a weapon, a tool for violence. But here, sharing her knowledge to help people protect themselves, she became something else, a teacher, a friend, a valued member of a community. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of harvest work, Adrian and Griska sat by the edge of his property, watching the sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. "I have been thinking," Adrian said carefully. "When the harvest is done, winter will come. It gets harsh out here. Hard to travel, I know." Griska kept her eyes on the horizon. "You could stay through the winter, maybe longer." "Adrian, I know what you are going to say, that it is complicated, that people will talk, that you do not belong here." He turned to face her. "But you do belong here, Griska. You fit, you make this place better just by being in it." Griska's hands clenched in her lap. "You do not understand what you are asking. If I stay, really stay, people will not just talk. They will make your life difficult. They might even become dangerous. Let me worry about that. I am trying to protect you." "I do not need protecting. I need you to be honest with me." Adrian's voice was quiet but intense. "Do you want to stay? Not because you feel obligated, not because you have nowhere else to go, but because you want to be here." It was the question Griska had been avoiding for weeks. The truth she did not want to examine too closely because it made her vulnerable in ways that terrified her, but Adrian deserved honesty. "Yes," she whispered. "I want to stay. I want to wake up and see these fields. I want to work beside you. I want to sit on the porch in the evening and watch the stars come out. I want this life." She forced herself to meet his eyes. "I want you, and that scares me more than any battle ever has." Adrian's breath caught. "Griska, I am a warrior. I know strategy and violence and survival. I do not know how to be gentle, how to build something instead of destroying it. What if I am not capable of this? What if I ruin it?" "You are already gentle," Adrian said fiercely. "I have seen you with the chickens, with Clara's grandson, with the seedlings in the garden. You treat everything with such care. You are capable of so much more than you know. I do not know how to be what you need. I need you to be yourself. That is all. Just stay. Be here. We will figure out the rest together." Griska wanted to believe him. Wanted it so badly it ached. What if the village never accepts me? Then they are fools. But Griska, some of them already have. Clara, Andrew, the others who came to help. People are capable of change, of growth. We just have to give them the chance. He reached out slowly, telegraphing his movement, and took her hand in his. His skin was warm against hers, calloused from work but gentle in its touch. "Stay," he said again. "Please." Griska looked down at their joined hands, human and orc, two people who by all rights should have been enemies. But instead they were something else, something new, something that felt dangerously like love. "Okay," she heard herself say, "I will stay." Adrian's smile was brighter than the sunset. "Yeah, yeah." Griska felt her own lips curve into an answering smile. "But if this goes wrong, I am blaming you." He laughed and squeezed her hand. "Fair enough." They sat together as twilight deepened around them, hands intertwined, and for the first time in her life, Griska allowed herself to hope for a future that did not involve running or fighting or being alone. The harvest ended in late October. The last of the wheat was bundled and stored. The fields lay bare and ready for winter. Everyone who had helped came to the farm for a small celebration, a tradition Adrian explained was meant to thank the workers and mark the end of the season. Griska helped prepare food, learning from Clara how to make a stew that could feed a small army. She was nervous about the gathering, worried that the fragile acceptance she had built might shatter, but Adrian's steady presence at her side kept her grounded. When people began to arrive, Griska was surprised by the warmth of the greetings. Andrew clapped her on the shoulder like they were old friends. His wife Wendy brought a pie specifically for Griska, remembering that she had mentioned liking berries. Clara's grandson showed off a fighting stance Griska had taught him, beaming with pride. Not everyone was comfortable. A few people kept their distance, but no one was openly hostile. It was more than Griska had ever dared to hope for. As the evening wore on and people ate and drank and shared stories, Griska found herself relaxing, laughing at jokes, contributing to conversations, being part of something larger than herself. At one point, she caught Adrian watching her from across the yard. He smiled when their eyes met, and Griska felt warmth bloom in her chest. Later, after most people had gone home and only a few stragglers remained, Griska helped clean up. She was carrying a stack of dishes to the house when Andrew approached her. "I just wanted to say thank you," he said earnestly, "for everything you taught us, and for being patient with me even when I was clumsy. You were a good student. You just need practice. Would you keep teaching me?" Even now that harvest is done, Griska glanced at Adrian, who was nodding encouragingly. "I suppose I could do that, if you do not mind training in the cold." "I do not mind at all." Andrew's grin was infectious. "You know, when I first heard an orc was staying at Hartley Farm, I will admit I was scared. But you are not what I expected. You are pretty amazing, actually." It was such a simple compliment, but it hit Griska with unexpected force. Amazing, not monstrous, not terrifying. Amazing. "Thank you," she managed. After Andrew left, Griska stood in the quiet kitchen processing the evening. The acceptance, the friendliness, the sense of belonging. Adrian came up behind her, his presence warm and solid. "You okay?" "I think so." She turned to face him. "This was nice." "It was." "You were great, very charming." Griska snorted. "I do not think anyone has ever called me charming before." Then they were not paying attention. Adrian stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of him. "Griska, I need to tell you something." Her heart kicked into a faster rhythm. "Okay, I care about you, a lot. More than I probably should, more than is sensible." He took a shaky breath. "I think I might be falling in love with you, and I understand if that is too much or too complicated or if you do not feel the same way, but I needed you to know." Griska stared at him, her mind whirling. He loved her. This kind, incredible human man loved her. "I have never been in love," she admitted. "I do not know if what I feel is that, but when I am with you I feel safe, like I can breathe for the first time in years." When you smile, I want to do anything to make you smile again. When you are in pain, I want to take it away. I think about you all the time. When I imagine the future, you are in it. Every version, every possibility. That sounds like love to me, Adrian said softly. Then I suppose I am falling in love with you too. The words hung between them for a breathless moment. Then Adrian closed the distance and kissed her. It was gentle, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. Griska had been kissed before, rough encounters that were more about power than affection. This was nothing like that. This was Adrian's hand cupping her cheek, his lips soft against hers. The tender way he held her like she was precious. When they finally pulled apart, Griska was trembling. "Was that okay?" Adrian asked, suddenly uncertain. "Yes." Griska's voice came out rough. "More than okay," he smiled, that beautiful crooked smile she had come to adore, and kissed her again. They stood in the kitchen, holding each other as the fire in the hearth burned low and the night settled around them. Two impossible people finding something perfect in each other. Winter came with a vengeance. Snow blanketed the fields and ice turned the world sharp and glittering. Griska had never experienced a winter this far south, and she was fascinated by it. The way snow crunched under her boots, the crystalline beauty of frost on windows, the way her breath steamed in the cold air. Adrian found her childlike wonder endearing. He showed her how to build a snowman, laughing when she built one that was 8 feet tall and looked vaguely menacing. He taught her to ice skate on the frozen pond, catching her every time she stumbled. They fell into new routines. Mornings were for necessary chores. Tending the animals, keeping paths clear of snow, maintaining equipment. Afternoons, when the work was lighter, Adrian continued teaching Griska to read. She was a quick study, devouring every book he owned with fierce determination. Evenings were for each other. They would sit by the fire, sometimes talking, sometimes in comfortable silence. Adrian carved wood, creating small figures with patient skill. Griska learned to mend clothes with neat stitches, finding satisfaction in repair work. And at night they shared Adrian's bed, finding warmth and comfort in each other's arms. Their physical relationship developed slowly. Griska was nervous about her strength, afraid of hurting Adrian accidentally. He was patient, showing her that intimacy could be gentle. That vulnerability was not weakness. The first time they made love, Griska cried again. Not from pain or sadness, but from the overwhelming sensation of being truly seen, truly wanted, truly loved. Adrian held her through it, whispering reassurances, and afterward they lay tangled together, mapping the scars on each other's skin and sharing stories of how they were earned. It was not perfect. They argued sometimes. Griska's warrior instincts clashed with Adrian's peaceful nature. She wanted to confront problems directly. He preferred diplomacy and patience, but they learned to compromise, to listen, to respect each other's differences while finding common ground. The village slowly, grudgingly began to accept the situation. Not everyone. Hendricks and his friends remained hostile. But enough people had gotten to know Griska through the harvest work that opinion began to shift. When a bad storm damaged several homes in the village, Griska volunteered to help with repairs. She worked alongside the men, hauling timber and lifting beams, and her sheer strength made the work go twice as fast. When Clara fell ill, Griska sat with her for 3 days, tending her with a gentleness that surprised everyone who witnessed it. When a child went missing in the woods, Griska used her tracking skills to find the girl, returning her safely to her grateful parents. Slowly, person by person, prejudice began to erode. It was not a dramatic change. There was no moment where the village collectively decided orcs were okay. but individual people made individual choices to see Griska as a person rather than a monster. And that was enough. Spring came, bringing new life to the world. Griska helped Adrian plant the fields, working the rich earth with her hands and marveling at the miracle of seeds becoming plants. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Adrian reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wooden box. "I made this for you," he said, suddenly nervous. Griska opened it to find a ring. Simple carved wood, polished smooth with intricate patterns that reminded her of Orc clan markings. "It is beautiful," she breathed. "It is a promise," Adrian said quietly. "I know we cannot legally marry. No priest would perform the ceremony. No government would recognize it. But I do not care about legal or official. I care about you, about us. This is my promise that I choose you, today and every day after. Will you choose me?" Griska looked at the ring, then at Adrian, and felt her heart swell with so much love she thought it might burst. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I choose you." Adrian slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands. It fit perfectly. "I love you, Griska." "I love you too, Adrian Hartley." They kissed as the sun dipped below the horizon, sealing a promise that needed no witnesses or official sanction. They had each other. That was enough. As spring turned to summer, Griska reflected on how much her life had changed. A year ago she had been alone, cast out, convinced she deserved nothing but pain and isolation. Now she had a home, a partner, friends, a community that, while not perfect, was trying. She had survived 100 battles without flinching. But it was Adrian's kindness that had truly broken her. Broken her open, broken down her walls, broken her free from the belief that she was nothing more than a weapon. In breaking her, he had helped her rebuild into something new, something whole. One morning, Griska woke before dawn to find Adrian already up, standing at the window and looking out at the fields. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, moving to stand beside him. "How lucky I am," he said simply. "That you collapsed by my fence, that you stayed. That you chose this life with me." Griska leaned her head against his shoulder. "I am the lucky one. We can both be lucky. I suppose that is fair." They stood together in the quiet morning, watching the world wake up around them. The farm stretched before them, green and growing, full of possibility. "I have been thinking," Adrian said carefully, "about expanding, maybe getting some sheep. You said orcs know a lot about animal husbandry. We could build something bigger together." "I would like that." Griska smiled. "What else have you been thinking about?" "Children, maybe, someday, if you wanted." He glanced at her nervously. "I know it is complicated, but there are orphans in the cities, children who need homes. We could provide that." Griska's throat tightened. The idea of raising children, of giving them the safety and love she had never known, filled her with fierce longing. "I would like that too," she whispered. Adrian pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "We have time. No rush. I just wanted you to know I see a future with you. A long, full life. So do I." They stayed like that as the sun rose, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Two people who had found the impossible made real. The second harvest came, and this time, even more villagers showed up to help. Griska was no longer a curiosity or a threat. She was just Griska, part of the fabric of the community. Andrew had gotten quite good at the combat training and had started teaching others. A few young people from the village asked Griska to teach them as well. She found herself running regular training sessions, passing on knowledge that had once been used only for war, now repurposed for protection and discipline. Clara introduced Griska to her quilting circle. The women were hesitant at first, but Griska's steady patience and willingness to learn won them over. She was terrible at quilting, her large hands clumsy with the tiny stitches, but she tried, and the women appreciated the effort. Hendrik still glared whenever he saw her, but he no longer actively tried to cause trouble. After Griska had pulled his son from a frozen pond in winter, risking her own safety to save the boy, Hendricks had grudgingly admitted that maybe, just maybe, she was not entirely a monster. It was not forgiveness, but it was a start. As the harvest ended and they held another celebration, Griska looked around at the gathered people. Not all of them were friends. Some still held reservations, but they were here. They were trying. "You did this," Adrian murmured in her ear. "We did this," Griska corrected. "Together." Because that was the truth. Adrian's unwavering kindness had given her a foundation, but she had built on it, had proven through actions and time that she was worthy of the chance he had given her. That night, after everyone had gone home, Griska and Adrian lay in bed, limbs tangled together. "Tell me something you have never told anyone," Adrian said sleepily. Griska thought for a moment. "When I was a child, before I became a warrior, I wanted to be a healer. I liked helping things grow, making them better. But my clan said I was too strong to waste on such soft work, that I was meant for battle." "You are a healer now," Adrian said. "Maybe not with herbs and medicines, but you heal people. You helped Andrew gain confidence. You helped Clara when she was sick. You helped me believe that kindness could bridge any divide. You are the one who healed me," Griska said softly. "I was broken when I came here. You put me back together. We healed each other." Adrian kissed her forehead. "That is what love does." Griska held him close, breathing in his scent, feeling his heartbeat steady against her own. "I am glad I collapsed by your fence," she said. Adrian laughed quietly. "So am I. Best day of my life finding you there. Even though I was a disaster, especially because of that. You needed me. No one had ever really needed me before, not like that." Griska pulled back to look at him. "I still need you. Every day. Good, because I need you too. I do not think I could go back to life without you in it." "You will never have to," Griska promised. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, safe and warm and home. The years passed in a rhythm of seasons. Planting and harvest. Snow and sunshine. Hard work and gentle evenings. True to their discussion, Adrian and Griska traveled to the city 2 years after she arrived at the farm. They visited an orphanage that Clara had told them about, a place that took in children no one else wanted. They left with 2 little girls, sisters, ages 4 and 6, who had been found wandering alone after their village was destroyed by bandits. The older girl, Lily, was fierce and protective. The younger, Rose, was quiet and watchful. Both were terrified of Griska at first. They had been taught that orcs were monsters. It took time, patience. Griska let them come to her at their own pace. She showed them her gentleness through actions, the way she carefully braided Lily's hair, the way she carved toys for Rose, the way she held them when they had nightmares, her strong arms a barrier against anything that might hurt them. Slowly, the girls learned that Griska was not a monster. She was their mother. Adrian was a wonderful father, patient and playful and endlessly kind. He taught the girls to raid, to plant gardens, to see beauty in the world. Together, they built a family that looked nothing like what tradition dictated. But it worked. It was full of love and laughter and belonging. The village watched this strange family with mixed feelings. But as the girls grew and thrived, even the most skeptical had to admit that maybe blood did not matter as much as love. Lily grew up fierce and strong, learning combat from Griska and farming from Adrian. She declared she would be a warrior farmer when she grew up, protecting the land she loved. Rose became a healer, just like Griska had once dreamed of being. She had gentle hands and a way with herbs that seemed almost magical. Both girls loved their parents fiercely, never cared that one was human and one was orc. They simply knew they were loved. On Griska's 5th anniversary of arriving at Hartley Farm, the village threw a celebration. Not everyone came, but enough did to fill Adrian's yard with people and food and music. Clara stood up to make a speech, her voice wavering with age but strong with conviction. 5 years ago, Adrian Hartley made a choice that many of us questioned. He showed kindness to a stranger, an orc stranger no less. Many of us thought he was foolish, that it would end badly. She paused, looking at Griska with warm eyes. We were wrong. Griska has become a valued member of this community. She has helped us in countless ways. She has shown us that our prejudices were born of fear and ignorance, not truth. She has proven that kindness and hard work matter more than the color of your skin or the shape of your ears. Clara raised her cup. To Griska, to Adrian, to the family they have built, and to the reminder that we are all capable of being better than we think we are. The crowd echoed the toast. To Griska and Adrian. Griska felt tears prick her eyes, but these were good tears. Happy tears. Adrian squeezed her hand. You okay? More than okay. She looked around at the gathered people, at her daughters playing with other village children, at the home she had built from nothing. I am home. Because that was the truth of it. Hartley Farm was not just where she lived, it was home. The place where she was known, where she was loved, where she belonged. The celebration continued late into the night. Music and dancing and stories shared around the fire. At one point, Hendrix approached Griska. She tensed, old instincts still wary. I owe you an apology, he said gruffly. For how I treated you, for the things I said. You saved my boy and I never properly thanked you. Griska blinked in surprise. You do not have to apologize. I do. I was wrong about you, about a lot of things. He extended his hand. I would like to start over if you are willing. Griska looked at his outstretched hand, then clasped his forearm in the warrior's grip. I am willing. Hendrix nodded, looking relieved, and walked away. Adrian appeared at her side, grinning. Did that just happen? I think it did. Miracles everywhere. Griska laughed and pulled him into a dance, not caring that she did not know the steps, just wanting to move and celebrate and feel the joy of this moment. As they spun around the fire, Griska caught glimpses of her life reflected in the faces around her. Andrew, who had become a good friend. Clara, who was like a grandmother to her daughters. The other villagers who had learned to see past their fear, and Adrian. Always Adrian, her anchor, her love. The man who had seen her at her lowest and chosen kindness. The music swelled and Griska threw her head back, laughing with pure delight. She had survived 100 battles without flinching. But one act of kindness had broken her open and let the light in, and she had never been more grateful for anything in her life. Years continued to flow like a river. Griska's tusks developed fine lines at their base, a sign of age among orcs. Adrian's dark hair showed threads of silver, but their love remained strong, deepened by time and shared experiences. Lily grew into a formidable young woman, respected in the village for her skill with both blade and plow. Rose became the village healer, her knowledge sought by people from miles around. When Lily announced she was courting a young man from a neighboring farm, Griska gave her blessing with a full heart. When Rose brought home a girl she had met in the city, a scholar with a quick mind and gentle smile, Griska welcomed her with open arms. The world was changing, slowly. Too slowly for some, but changing nonetheless. More orcs began to settle in human lands. More humans questioned the old prejudices. It was not a wave of acceptance, but rather a gradual shifting of perspectives, one person at a time. Griska and Adrian became something of an example. Proof that different peoples could not just coexist but thrive together. On their 10th anniversary, Adrian added an addition to the house. More rooms for when the girls visited with their own families someday. a larger kitchen for the gatherings that had become regular occurrences. "I never imagined this," he said one evening as they sat on the expanded porch watching the sunset. "This full, beautiful life. Neither did I." Griska leaned against him, comfortable and content. "I imagined dying young in battle, alone, forgotten. You will never be forgotten. You have touched too many lives." Griska thought about the combat students she had trained, the people she had helped during difficult times, her daughters and their futures, the slow change in the village's heart. "We have done good work here," she said. "We have, and we are not done yet." "No." Adrian smiled. "I heard about a group of displaced orcs looking for safe haven. I was thinking we might talk to the village council, see if we can help settle them nearby." Griska's heart swelled. Even after all these years, Adrian's capacity for kindness never ceased to amaze her. "The council might not agree. Then we will convince them, together." That word, together, it had become their foundation, their promise, their truth. Griska took Adrian's hand and brought it to her lips, pressing a gentle kiss to his knuckles. "Together," she agreed. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant colors. In the distance, they could hear Lily laughing at something her sweetheart said. Could smell the herbs Rose was drying for her healing work. This was life, full and rich and complicated and beautiful. Griska, who had once been nothing but a weapon, was now a wife, a mother, a teacher, a friend, a bridge between worlds, and it had all started with one man choosing kindness over fear, choosing to see a person instead of a monster, choosing to extend a hand instead of raising a weapon. That single choice had rippled outward, creating waves that touched countless lives, changed perspectives, built communities. As darkness settled and stars began to emerge, Griska and Adrian remained on the porch, wrapped in each other's warmth. "I love you," Griska said softly. "I love you too." Adrian kissed her temple. "Thank you for staying. Thank you for giving me a reason to stay." They sat together under the stars, two people who had found each other against all odds and knew with absolute certainty that they had found home. Not in a place, though Hartley Farm would always be precious, but in each other, in the life they had built through choice and effort and unwavering commitment, in the love that had broken Griska open and allowed her to become something she never thought possible. Not a warrior, not a weapon, but a woman who was cherished, who belonged, who loved and was loved in return. The warrior who had survived 100 battles had finally found the one thing worth more than survival. She had found peace, found purpose, found joy, and it had started with the simplest act. One man seeing a stranger in need and choosing kindness. That choice had saved her life, and in doing so, had given her something worth living for.